Hi, Dr. Alex Perry here. You've come to this page because you're trying to get pregnant, and everything that I'm going to talk to you about today is aimed at helping you to fall pregnant naturally. Now, whether you're thinking about trying to get pregnant or you've already been trying for some time, perhaps with no success, I'm sure that you have questions about how I can help you, and I'm going to try and answer some of them today in this really short video. Now, I'd encourage you to stay until the end. It's always tempting to bail early, isn't it? But if you're serious about getting pregnant, I believe this is well worth watching. My name's Alex. I'm a Chinese medicine doctor, and I've been working with women and their partners for more than 10 years in helping them to realize their dreams of starting or growing their families. And I'm very happy to say that in that 10 years, I've really closed the gap between those that are getting pregnant and those that have not yet been pregnant or not yet had a baby. And it's my great prayer that I can help you and your partner to fall pregnant and have a baby also. Now, whenever I talk about getting pregnant naturally, I always talk about three fertility factors, three key fertility factors. And this is always the place to start, because if you are about to start trying, or if you've already been trying for a while, making a mistake in any one of these three key fertility factors may be a part of your struggle to getting pregnant. So let's make sure right at the beginning that we get the basics right. Now, in my experience, there is one method that pretty much all couples are using to try and get pregnant. It's what I affectionately call the machine gun method. The machine gun method. Effectively, you close your eyes, have a lot of sex, and hope for the best. And look, of course, that's great when this method is working. But what do you do when it's not working? What do you do when you're not getting pregnant using this method? Well, that's when I would employ what I call the sniper approach. But you can only do that if you can answer fertility factor number one, and this is most critical. So what is key fertility factor number one? Well, it might surprise you to know that it's the most simple and most basic place to start. It's timing, and it's the best and most obvious place to start, and yet it's also the most frequently ignored of all the fertility questions. It's the question that has the most presumptions made about its answer, when I reckon it's the place to be most certain about rather than making all these assumptions. Actually, there are three questions to ask when it comes to fertility factor one, timing. The first of these is, are you actually ovulating at all? And this is really key, isn't it? If you're not ovulating, you're in, it's going to make it a lot harder. So the first question is, are you ovulating at all? The second question is, if you are ovulating, when is it happening and is it consistent? And there's a supplementary question that goes along with that, and it's, how do you know that you're ovulating and when? Now, it's worth saying right now that there are a couple of traps when it comes to knowing if and when you are ovulating. The first has to do with using an app on your phone to determine ovulation. Again, if you're falling pregnant easily, then it appears that the app is correct. However, the app just doesn't know, and it cannot know if and when you're ovulating. The app is just using a whole bunch of population data and does not understand anything about your body. This, in my opinion, is a massive mistake. There is a better way to know that you are ovulating, and it's by looking at what your body is actually doing. The second trap in determining ovulation is relying on sensation. Now, some women get sensation or even pain around ovulation, and while this may well be related to ovulation itself, it does not necessarily give you an indication of precisely when you ovulate. Again, we want to have a look at what your body's actually doing rather than presuming that ovulation occurs when you get this pain or this sensation. The third trap in determining ovulation is cervical mucus change. Now, a lot of women are relying on changes in cervical mucus to determine when they're ovulating. Again, while this is certainly useful information, on its own, it does not necessarily give you an accurate picture of when you actually ovulate. So if you're trying and it's not happening, you're not getting pregnant, now there's a good chance that your body's not doing exactly what the textbook says it should be. And if this is the case, we ought to know about it so we can do something about it. Now, there's actually a much better way to do it, to check. And what I do is I use two very commonly used tests, but they're almost never, in my experience, used together outside of my clinic. I'm one of the only people who do it in this way. And what I noticed was that even though when one of these tests seemed positive, some of my patients were still not falling pregnant. It didn't seem to be enough information. So what I did was I overlaid the data from both of these tests and we got a super clear picture of ovulation. And it was not always, and this is the interesting part, it was not always when we expected it to be. And that has massive implications in terms of timing. What it means is that we can now answer these questions very accurately. We can see that you do ovulate, which means we can be confident of your timing. So we can answer those questions. Do you ovulate? Yes. When does it happen? We can see that. Therefore, you can get your timing right and be absolutely certain of that. And that is so critical to getting pregnant. So the first key fertility factor is timing. What I call the front to back method will answer these three questions for you. Arguably, the most important questions when it comes to getting pregnant naturally. Now, I'll tell you a bit more about the front to back method in a minute. So, first question one, are you ovulating at all? Second question, when are you ovulating and is it consistent? And thirdly, given the answer to those questions, when do you have sex to make sure that the egg and the sperm are together at the right time in order to give you the best chance of getting pregnant? I hope that makes sense. For many couples, and you may be one of them, the machine gun method is what you are using. And while that may be fun for a while, it is ultimately pretty tiring for most couples, month in and month out. So there is a better way. Now, what we really want to do is to be able to answer the questions about fertility factor number one, timing. Are you ovulating? If so, when? And that'll give us a very clear picture of what your timing should be. Now, how do we work all of this out? Great question. That's where the front to back method comes in. It's actually really easy, but you've got to have a method. You've got to have a method. Now, the method I've developed is what I call the front to back method. Super easy to do. You do it all at home. It does not require any blood tests, and it'll give us heaps of information. You'd be surprised how much information it gives us in order to answer these most basic and most key important questions. And the result is that you can ditch the machine gun approach in favour of what I describe as the sniper method. But much more importantly, you can be confident that you are getting your timing right, and that's absolutely critical. Now, in the last 10 years of working with couples struggling to get pregnant, I've found that more than 95% of the women who come to see me do not know when they're ovulating. They don't really know when they're ovulating. In fact, they know very little of what it means to have a period, what hormones are involved, and what they do. The number to me is absolutely staggering, and particularly because we're trying to fall pregnant, we're working in the fertility space. We've got to have an understanding of what our bodies are really doing. And what I've found beyond that is that about 60% of my fertility patients have just not been getting their timing right, at least partly because they don't know when they're ovulating, which means that they've been getting fertility factor 1 wrong. And the challenge is, if the sperm and the egg never get together, you know what? You're never going to fall pregnant. We've got to get that timing right, which is why fertility factor number 1 is timing. Before we look at looking at other issues and changing your cycle and so on, we've got to make sure that this number 1 question is absolutely answered. And you know, in many cases, answering this question is enough for couples to get pregnant, and that's really exciting when it happens. It actually happened just the other week. I had a couple that had been trying for quite a long, a year or more, and we used the front to back method. We discovered very quickly that their timing was right, was completely out by several days, if not up to a week. And the very next month they were pregnant. So that was pretty exciting. I should hasten to add, results not typical, but it certainly goes a long way to show that getting your timing right is a massive part of fertility. Now, of course, there are other factors, the fertility factors 2 and 3 specifically. But if you're thinking of getting pregnant or have been trying for some time with no success, and you can't answer definitively when you're ovulating, or you'd like to explore if there are other fertility factors that may be stopping you from getting pregnant, then I'd like to offer my help. Now, the best place to start, in my experience, is with a conversation. It's with an initial consultation. You know what? I prefer them to call them an initial conversation, because that's actually what we do when you come into the clinic for the first time. We talk about exactly where you are and where you would like to be. And it's really worth pre-framing what happens in that initial conversation. So let's talk about that really quickly. There are actually 3 main parts. Now, firstly, and you've got to excuse my funny way of expressing this, but we start with where did you come from? And this is really about looking at your history. How did you get to this point? And that's really important. The second part is we discuss where you are right now. So this includes a diagnosis, and that's obviously informed and based on what you've already told me as part of your history. Now, this is vital because it looks to answer why you were struggling and gives us a basis for moving forward to part 3. And thirdly, and perhaps most importantly to you, is where are you headed? Now, part of this is going to be obvious, isn't it? You're trying to fall pregnant naturally. You're trying to have a baby. You're trying to start your family, or you're trying to grow your family. So we can see where you want to go. So this third part is all about how do we get you there? What treatment is involved and why? What to expect? How are we going to measure your success? How long will it take? And anything else that is relevant to building what I describe as a roadmap to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And that's really important. In my experience, 99% of practitioners start treatment and then wander off somewhere into the future. For me, that's not enough. I'm a planner. I want to know how are we going to get where we want to go, and how do we measure that, and how do we know we're actually on the right path. So that roadmap is absolutely critically important. Now, I wish that at this point that I could guarantee your success, but I cannot. What I can do is to promise that I'll do everything in my power to move you closer to your goal of pregnancy and of starting your family. And in my experience over more than 10 years of doing this, the vast majority of my patients do get pregnant and have babies. If I told you the percentage rate of pregnancies across all our patients, you just wouldn't believe me. It's that high. So what I'd like you to do now is to make an appointment, okay? You've had a chance to digest where we're at and where we're headed. And what I'm going to do when you come in our initial conversation is I'm going to answer the 3 key fertility factors for you and determine why you're not getting pregnant. See if there's anything that we can look at to make a change. And as well as that, we're going to build for you a personalised fertility roadmap to help take you closer to your dream of starting and growing your family. Now, beneath this video is a booking form. It's really simple. All you got to do is put your email into the box and hit the booking button. And what that'll do is it'll take you straight to your diary where you can select initial conversation. And you can book a time that suits you there. My suggestion is you do it now. Put your email in, hit the booking button, and that'll take you so you can make your initial conversation. Make sure that you find a time that books. Now, as you can see there, that's the screen that you'll see. Make sure you select initial conversation, and that'll take you to my diary, and you can make a time. I really look forward to seeing you. Thanks so much for joining me at the Perry Centre today. It's been my great pleasure to speak with you about one of my favourite topics, fertility, particularly trying to fall pregnant naturally. And I look forward to meeting you at the clinic soon. Bye for now. Hi, Dr. Perry here again. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, just down below you'll see a box. I should do it here, where you can see a box where you can put your email in. Make sure you hit the submit or the booking button now, and I'm going to take you straight to the page where you can make your appointment. And we'll give you some other options as you go along in terms of asking some questions. But right now, that would be absolutely the thing to do. So just immediately down here. Pop your email in, hit the book now button. Go and find yourself a time that suits you, that we can come in, and really look forward to meeting you soon. Okay, okay, this is really, yeah. Oh, I should say also, given you're still watching, you know, we have a coming into the clinic is actually a lot of fun. It's a great opportunity to meet and to build a relationship around trying to help you and your partner have a baby. It's a wonderful opportunity and a great thing to speak about and to talk with you about in terms of falling pregnant and starting your family. So I don't want you to feel too worried or nervous about coming in. My suggestion is you come and we just make a start. So again, it's hard to know where that camera is. Here, put your email in, hit the book now button, find a time for our initial conversation, and I look forward to meeting you soon. Okay, bye for now.